Good evening, sports fans, and welcome into another edition of the Overtime Podcast with Sparksy and Jared, up to episode number 17 on this Tuesday evening, August 4th of 2020. And boy, Jared, outside tonight after that extreme heat, it feels kind of like football weather, and we're all hoping for football, of course, but we're going to talk a little hardwood tonight. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's getting kind of chilly out, so we might as well get in the winter mode here.
Yeah, we can talk about any sports at any time. That's the beauty of this podcast series, isn't it?
Yeah, especially right now, we don't really have a whole lot going on except baseball, and your hockey's starting here.
Yeah.
The Blue Jackets, what did they do today?
They lost 3-0, but the series is tied 1-1, so hopefully they can come back Thursday and get a victory over Toronto.
Yep, so we got Nick on here, so I guess we'll get going.
Yeah, absolutely. Joining us tonight from Norwalk, Ohio, senior-to-be Nick Winslow, a basketball player from Norwalk St. Paul High School. And Nick, so thank you so much for joining us tonight. Certainly appreciate you giving up your time.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me.
You bet. So, as I mentioned, you're going to be a senior this year. Your twin brother, Nate, plays alongside of you, and we'll talk about that a little later in the podcast. You've been a 3-year player and have done very, very well. Averaged about 9 points per game as a freshman with a game-high 20 against arguably one of your big rivals in South Central. You appeared in 25 games, and then you upped that your sophomore year to just shy of 12 points per game with a game-high 28 against the Wildcats in New London. And then this past year, you got it up to over 16 points a game, actually 16 and a half points per game with a career high of 32 against Crestview. And you've scored 112 three-pointers in your 3-year career so far, and your Flyers have a combined record of 43-30. And last year, a really good year for St. Paul, 16-9 overall, 12-2 in the always tough Firelands Conference. You won a sectional title and then lost to your nemesis, so to speak, South Central in the district final, 47-36 under 32-year veteran head coach Mike Smith. And you and I were talking Sunday night. I couldn't believe he's been there that long, but what a great career. So just kind of reflect real quick on your career so far and what you're looking forward to going into your senior year.
Well, obviously, I think I've had a pretty good career, but I'm glad to help win the conference last year with my team because before that, it was like 20 years. I think back in 1998 was the last time they won the conference. So, it was good winning that, but it was a 3-way tie, which is pretty rare to have. But it was a fun season, and I'm looking forward to getting back with all the guys next year.
Now, Nick, you talk about the league and how tough it is. I guess just expand on that and where you see the Flyers fitting in this coming winter.
Oh, yeah, last year was really tough. There was a lot of good teams, but I think this next year, Western's going to be really tough. They got a lot of guys returning. I think they only got like one guy that left, but South Central, they're really good. I think they'll still be pretty good next year. Monroeville is on to come up with Isaac. I think they'll be pretty good. But yeah, I think we still got a shot to get number one, which is what we're obviously aiming for. But yeah, Western's going to be at the top, and that's going to be a tough task for us. But we're looking forward to it.
Even though I'm down in Bucyrus and Jared's down in the Marion area, I know Norwalk and the St. Paul community very well. I was born there, as I explained, and my mother was a graduate of St. Paul. My dad a graduate of Monroeville, and I don't have to tell you what that rivalry means, of course. So I'm very familiar with that area. And certainly you mentioned South Central and Western Reserve, always really talented in basketball, and Monroeville has turned it around. But you can't forget about people like Crestview, New London.
Absolutely.
Tell us just a little bit about why the Firelands Conference is kind of a dog-eat-dog conference, and you have to be ready to play every single night you hit the floor.
Firelands Conference is a really good conference. It's one of those conferences that have been like the same teams for such a long time. But, you got all those rivalries, because most of the teams have one rivalry. We got, I think, mostly rivalries with like Monroeville, South Central, and Western. We got all those teams. But yeah, if you're not ready to play on one night, you'll get beat by a team that you maybe think is going to be at the bottom. So you got to come ready to play every day.
Now you talk about facing teams like a South Central. They have the experience here the past couple of years, and you guys have played them even into the tournament. And what's that been like facing them even outside your league, especially in the tournament?
Oh, facing South Central, man, they've been good for so long. I got a lot of respect for Coach Seidel and all those guys, but they lost a good class this year with Simon, Isaiah, and all those guys. But I think they'll still be pretty decent, pretty good next year. But they got Dave and Sam and all those guys. So and Coach Seidel is obviously a great coach, so I think he'll get them back to good. But man, South Central, we've had so many good games. My freshman year, we upset them in the tournament, and then they beat us this last year. So 1-1 in the tournament. I'm looking to get them again next year.
Nick, I talked about how steadily in scoring your offensive game has progressed from the time you were a freshman through your junior year and now heading into your senior year. Talk about what really changed for you and how you continually were able to get that scoring average up and some things that you did off the court or off season to help get you to that point.
Yeah, my dad's always been real heavy on lifting, getting stronger, and I think that's helped me. Because me and Nate, we go lift 3-4 times a week with our trainer in Norwalk. But we do that. We work on getting quicker, and obviously we go shoot in the gym, do all that stuff. And I think all that stuff really makes you better. Some people really just look at shooting, scoring, but there's a lot of other stuff in the game, and getting stronger is definitely a big part of what has helped me so far.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because. I don't know so much about Jared, but certainly back when I was in high school, basketball, was kind of a hands-off kind of game. And it's a pretty physical game at the high school level now, isn't it? Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, it's really physical. It's every team is mostly that we play is physical. The out-of-conference games, the in-conference games are physical, but it's really grown. It's really grown and got more physical as the years have gone on. But it's a fun game to play, and I love it.
And you talk about the growing of the game going on, and obviously your scoring has increased from year to year. And what other aspects of the game do you think you've improved upon besides scoring?
I think, my dribbling has gotten my ball handling, my passing has gotten a lot better. Me and my dad have worked on that a lot in the gym. And, moving without the ball, rebounding, all that stuff. My rebounding was one of my best things this year. But, that's gotten a lot better. My freshman year, I really kind of just focused on scoring, which isn't really the best thing to do. But I've learned, to win more games, you got to do more than just scoring. You got to pass, got to rebound, and do all that stuff. And all that stuff's been improving as the years have gone on.
Nick, I think if you talk to sports fans around North Central and Northern Ohio, and you mentioned the school, St. Paul in Norwalk, Ohio, most will say, yeah, that's a really good football school. And Coach Livengood does a great job for a small school, and their success is, comes without saying. I mean, they've done very, very well. What are some things that, that you think you've done and kind of set the table, so to speak, you and your brother, for classes to come to say, we're not just a football school, we're a basketball school as well?
Yeah, people look at St. Paul and they say it's a football school, which obviously we are really good in basketball, but you got to look at the basketball too. It's my brother Noah, he's 3 years older than me, and he played with Dylan Furlong and Brandon McCall. I don't know if you know that class, but they really set a tone, and they were so close to winning the conference. And then my goal as I came into my career was to get a conference championship, and I think we set a tone for St. Paul basketball by winning it last year. So it's St. Paul basketball is definitely getting better.
You talk about getting better, and then what do you think are some areas of your game that you need to improve upon? Obviously, the scoring's there. You talked about your dribbling a little bit. What do you think you can specifically improve upon heading into your senior year?
Me and Coach Smith talk every year about how my defense has got to get better, and I've really focused on this summer trying to, do whatever I can to get better defense, get my legs stronger and all that stuff. But definitely defense is the most that I got to work on, and I've been working on that this summer.
I made mention that I found it hard to believe. I was going back on a website that looks at basketball statistics throughout Northern Ohio, and Huron County certainly is one. And so that's where I was getting your statistic from. And I thought to myself, well, Coach Smith, he'd been there a while, but I kept going back in years, and I did the math. And as you and I spoke, 32 years or whatever. Talk about the impact that he's made, not only in your basketball game, but in your personal life as well.
Yeah, Coach Smith's a great coach. I love Coach Smith, and I wouldn't want to have any other coach besides him. He's been there for me since I was in 5th and 6th grade, just starting out. Him and my dad knew each other, because they're both coaches or whatever. But yeah, Coach Smith, he's a great guy. He's such a good mentor. But our families are close, and so he's over here. He's all the time, and we talk. We got a good relationship outside of basketball, and he's definitely helped me a lot through my basketball and personal life.
You talk about that experience with him as a coach, but going forward, and you play with your twin brother, Nate, and just talk about that experience and how special it is playing with him.
Playing with Nate, it's amazing because me and him both, we love to win. We love basketball, and he loves it just as much as I do. And, we both do whatever we got to do to win. So it's good to have him on the floor because we both grind. We both grind it out. And, I wouldn't want to have anyone else besides Nate to play with.
So going in now to your senior year, and it's a very special year for any sport, be it male or female. But with that, not only comes what you do on the court, but I think seniors have to carry some level of leadership as well. And talk a little bit about the importance of being a leader, and are you more of a verbal leader, or do you lead by example for your teammates?
I'd say I'm more the leader by example. Nate's a lot more vocal than I am. He talks to all the guys, gets them focused that way. But I say I lead by example. Me and Nate take a big responsibility as leaders, and seniors, and Scotty and Adam and all those guys are going to do that with us too this year. And I'm excited for this year because we're going to take on that responsibility as leaders.
Now, how many total seniors will you have on the team this year?
I don't know. I think so far it's 5 or 6 because I don't know if this Caleb Schwann, he's a senior, but I don't know if he's going to play or not because he hasn't been to the summer stuff or open gyms, but I think it's around 6.
Are you happy with that group?
Oh, yeah. I love all these guys. We've been playing, except Caleb moved in when I think he was a freshman. But besides that, we've been playing with all these guys since 5th grade, and 5th grade through 8th grade, we were 45 and 54 and 2. So we've had such a good career with these guys, and I'm ready to cap off my senior year with them.
Going forward here, this past summer, the past few months, obviously we've been hit with the coronavirus here in the States. And going off of that, not everybody has that experience of having their twin brother who also plays basketball in the same house. You're able to play with him, get that work built up over the summer. Just talk about that and kind of what advantage that gives you compared to other people who don't have that experience.
Oh, yeah, it definitely helps because, me and Nate both fierce competitors, and he, whenever I go into workout, he's in the gym with me too. And, we're always battling with each other, and it's always a competitive thing, so it definitely makes me and him both better to go against each other like that.
We're visiting with senior basketball player from Norwalk St. Paul High School, Nick Winslow. And Nick, I want to kind of dovetail off of that as well. And I would suspect that you and your twin brother, Nate, have a solid enough relationship that if either one of you have to get in each other's grill at either practice or could be a game, that's kind of fair game, that's open to kind of say, hey, brother, pick it up.
Yeah, me and him are on each other a lot because we know how good both of us can be. So, when we both get on each other, we sometimes get frustrated, but we end up understanding what the other one is saying. If I'm having a bad game and Nate tells me to pick it up or whatever, then, I got to pick it up. So it's sometimes frustrating, but we get on each other. It's because we know how good we can be.
We'll switch gears a little bit here, and you play AAU basketball for the Ohio Ballistics. And what are your thoughts on playing AAU, and should all high school players do so?
AAU is a really good thing. If sometimes, kids that play baseball, if they're too busy with baseball and stuff like that, then you definitely don't got to play. But it's if you don't got nothing to do and whatever season that is. I forget, but I think it's spring. If you don't got anything to do in the spring or the summer, then you gotta play basketball and just keep getting better. And AAU definitely helps with that.
What's some of the let's say most interesting places that AAU has taken you, and also what have you learned or gleaned the most from your AAU experiences over the years?
I think the farthest I ever went for AAU was we went to Myrtle Beach in South Carolina, and that was really fun. We actually won a national championship there with my old AAU team. But I've learned a lot from AAU because you play against some really good guys. We just played against a Division I guy that has this weekend that has like 13 Division I offers. So you play against really good competition, and you got to learn how to really use the fundamentals. Be solid at the game.
Do you have a specific player in mind in AAU that you've been going up against that's been one of the tougher ones to face?
Last weekend, like I just said, we played Desmond Watson. I don't know if you guys have heard that name. We played against Michi Johnson, who was an Ohio State commit. Malachi Brandon, who was also an Ohio State commit. And I think those are the three best guys that we really played with.
So you're playing with guys that, for the Ballistics, that come from all over. Mainly, is it Northern Ohio or is it all over Ohio?
This team that I'm on right now is mostly around like Fremont area. Like Fremont, St. Joe, Old Fort, Tiffin, Calvert, those guys. But my other AU team that I was on, DMGA, was like Ashland guys. So yeah.
So who coaches the Ballistics now?
The Ballistics was Eric Rumble, and DMGA was Jack Dow.
Oh, okay. All right. And does your brother play with you on that team, or are you just on your own?
Oh, yeah, we both play together. He's on the team.
Can you, I guess, elaborate a little bit? How do you think that improves your game here going into the season? I mean, obviously you've had that experience. How many games have you played this year so far? Has it been slowed down at all because of COVID?
Yeah, we were supposed to have a way longer AAU season than we did. I think we were supposed to start I think it was in like March or somewhere around there. But we were supposed to start then, and then we ended up starting all the way until I think it was July or June. And then, so we only got 3 weekends to play. So it definitely cut it down, but we started off 0-4, and then we won the last 8 games of the AAU season. So we definitely improved, and it was definitely worth it.
So, of course, with this pandemic, Nick, so many things are up in the air. We know that cross country is a go now and volleyball is a go, which is great for St. Paul fans because they have an outstanding volleyball program at Flyer Nation there. So I'm sure they're excited about that, but don't know about football. Of course, a brand new Whitney Field with AstroTurf, and I'm sure that both Norwalk High and St. Paul would love to play on that. But and really, even though basketball is still a number of months off, it's got to be kind of back in your mind to say, are we going to have a basketball season? What's that going to look like? Have you thought about that? And what have you done both mentally and physically to kind of prepare for maybe a season, maybe not a season?
Obviously I hope we're the football guys, because I'll feel terrible for the guys in my class who've been in a football season. I really hope we have, basketball, baseball season, all that stuff. But if we don't have a basketball season, how I'm going to look at it is just the whole year to prepare and get better for college and stuff like that.
Speaking of that, what are your future plans?
I'm planning on playing basketball in college. I've visited Bluffton, Marietta, and Wittenberg so far. So,
is there one that's kind of a leader right now, or?
I know I'm wearing a Bluffton shirt, but Marietta, Bluffton, and Wittenberg, those are the top 3 for me, and none of them stand out more than the other.
Yeah, I didn't know if maybe you were going to drop something tonight, and
no, this is the shirt I came with.
We could add our first commitment, Mike.
Yeah, we haven't had a commitment yet. I mean, Grant Lloyd we already knew the news, but we could have had a commit tonight. And we had talked to Cooper Parrott earlier, and he chose Marietta, so he's going to go down and play for the Pioneers. Cooper, what would that be like just 1 year removed if you could go down to Marietta and play with him?
Me and Cooper and, those guys from Willard, we had a really tough game this year. I don't know if you guys saw it. I think we were ranked number 1 in the state, and they were ranked number 7. It was just a really good game. And, he's obviously a great player. But, I went down to Marietta camp this last weekend, and I actually got to play against Cooper because the freshmen from Marietta were in that camp with us. And it was, I love playing against Cooper. It's always a good battle, and he's one of the best competitors and best players around the area. So, but if I got to play with Cooper, it'd definitely be a great thing because he's such a good player, and I can learn from him and do so many things that he does.
When you, regardless of what happens your senior year, and let's kind of fast forward, and not too fast because nobody wants to lose their senior year, but next May, you're getting ready to graduate. What kind of reflections are you going to have in both your athletic and your academic time at St. Paul High School?
St. Paul has really taught me a lot over the years, and the guys that I'm with right now in my class, I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I really don't even know if I'm ready to. It's like I look at myself and I say I'm a senior. It's like, wow, but it's always going to come to that time to graduate, but I don't even know if I'm ready for it yet. And I love every one of my classmates.
Yeah, and in a small school like that, you probably know every single one of them.
Everybody.
Yeah, that's the beauty of a small school for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
One goal you have for this year, and what is it going to be?
One goal I'm going to have for this year. I obviously want to go back-to-back for conference, but I really want to win a district championship. I saw South Central do it 2 years back, and, it was really inspiring for me, and that would be such a great accomplishment to have.
Does it give you a little extra motivation watching them in the district final, just sitting there on the floor?
Absolutely, because I was at that game. I was at that game, and after that night, I went back to my court, and I worked for like 2 hours from like midnight all the way to 2 a.m. And I was so, that motivated me for the whole summer, and it obviously helped me get a conference championship under our belt.
We've been visiting with Norwalk St. Paul senior basketball player Nick Winslow, and Nick, our time's starting to run out here. Are you up for a little rapid fire session with us?
No, let's get it started.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. And we always like to start out with probably our favorite question. There's only one restaurant left on the face of the planet. What's it got to be for Nick?
Buffalo Wild Wings.
We haven't heard that one, have we, Jared?
No, we haven't. You got to go to?
What did you say?
What's your go-to food there?
Oh, the sweet barbecue boneless wings.
What is it with it? I have a son that's 22, and all of his friends, it's all about boneless. Don't kids like bone-in wings anymore?
My dad always gets on me when I go to Buffalo Wild Wings and I get boneless wings, but I don't know how you can't like them. Have you guys not tried them?
Oh yeah, I have. I kind of am a traditional guy. I mean, Jared, don't you like the bone-in?
No, I'm a boneless guy too, man. Don't like them. First off, you got to have like 15 napkins sitting next to you.
Maybe I'm the outsider then. All right. Well, plug for BW3. That's a good choice. I'm happy to hear that one. Have at it, Jared.
What is Nick watching on Netflix right now?
I just got done watching the Epstein documentary, and I'm on the Jordan Last Dance thing.
Oh, you didn't watch that when it first came out?
No, I did not.
Okay. I didn't watch much of it either because I didn't want to see Michael Jordan shoot over Craig Elo and break my Cavalier heart again.
Yeah, that's what my dad said. He hated Michael Jordan back in the day because they always beat the Cavs.
Yeah, for sure. So we talked a lot about the Firelands Conference and how good of a league that is. And certainly you like playing in your own gym. Very nice gym at the new Convocation Center there at St. Paul. But talk about maybe some of your other favorite gyms, could be in the conference or outside the conference, that you really enjoy going to play at.
Inside the conference, I think it'd probably have to be New London because this year I had 9 threes there, I think, and last year I had 28 points. So I've always played good in that gym, and we always have. Well, besides my freshman year, we've got the win there. But out of conference, I'd have to say I like Huron's gym. My dad used to coach there, and I grew up there. I've always liked it. Yeah,
people talk about that. I know when we had Coach Hershey and Bedingfield on, they mentioned Huron because they've always been pretty successful there. Talk about that atmosphere of going to the smaller gyms of South Central and Western, where it seems like the fans are right on top of you and it's always going to be intense. What's that like for you?
Oh yeah, I love playing in those two gyms too, but because every time we go there, it's obviously packed because the gyms are smaller, but I don't mind that at all. because, the games that have most of the fans and, you can barely even hear when you're talking, those are the best games to play in.
We'll elaborate on that a little bit. Who do you think is your biggest rival right now?
Right now, I'd have to say Western Reserve, because I grew up with all those guys because my dad coached there when I was in like 4th grade and 5th grade. And I grew up with Johnny, Luke, and all those guys, and we'd always play against each other. So they're my close friends, and you never want to lose to your close friend, or because they always got something to say about it. So they're definitely my biggest rivals.
Yeah, and from afar, I like to watch what Luke Rowlandson does. Of course, he grew up here in Bucyrus at Winford with his dad, that I know very well and know both of them very well. And so, not that I'm necessarily rooting for Western per se, but I do like to see their progress for sure. How about some of the toughest players you've ever had to go up against?
Cooper was tough to go against. Cooper Parrott. Simon Blair was obviously really tough for 3 years. Those two really are the ones that stand out for me.
How about out of conference? Some of the out of conference guys. I mean, you mentioned Cooper, but anybody maybe out of the Sandusky Bay Conference?
Man, I know there's so many, and I don't want to make anybody mad by leaving them out because there's so many guys.
Right.
Out of conference, I can't think of any. I'm drawing a blank.
No,
Cooper's the only guy because this year I remembered him. But yeah, there's so many good players out there.
How much trash talking is there on a high school basketball floor?
It just depends on the team, really. Usually St. Paul guys are kind of quiet, but some teams, they trash talk, which I don't have a problem with, but, because it always fuels me to go harder. It really just depends on the team. Usually the out-of-conference games are the ones that have the trash talking because, Western and South Central, all those guys because their school right around you, so they don't want to make any, have any bad blood with you. But there's definitely some trash talk that goes into it, but not much.
Nice. You think that kind of flusters any of your teammates at all, or you think it just adds to motivation like you?
Oh, I don't know what some other guys think, but for me, all it does is that motivation, because, some teams that beat my dad in the past, they trash talk his players and they trash talk him. And, I play against them and I want to beat him so bad. But, yeah, for me, it adds a lot of motivation.
Well, Nick, we need to wrap up here. Our time is running out. Is there anybody in particular you want to shout out tonight, the Flyer Nation, or anybody in particular?
Let's go shout out to Scotty Adelman, my starting point guard.
Okay, very good. I'm familiar with that last name. I don't think I know him personally, but that's a prominent name in the Norwalk area for sure. So, Jared, any last parting comments?
Thanks for joining us, Nick, and we look forward. And I know we're focused on basketball here in the Crawford County area, but I'm sure we'll probably see you around as well. So good luck this coming season.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yeah, Nick, I wish you the very best of luck. I hope there is a senior season for you and your brother and the St. Paul Flyers and all of the state of Ohio in basketball. It's a very important sport to our state. It gives us something to do in the cold winter months. And for your sake, I hope you get to complete your senior year. Regardless, I hope you have a great academic year and make that right decision of where you want to go at the next level. And I certainly appreciate you taking of your time and wanting to share with us. I think you have a really compelling and interesting story. And as Jared mentioned, even though we're kind of down here in North Central Ohio, I will be sure to keep my eye on St. Paul and the success of the Flyers in the Firelands Conference this year. And again, just thank you so much for joining us.
Yep, thank you guys. It was great.
Need to remind you that the comments and views expressed in this podcast series are those of Mike Sparks, Jared Moore, and our guests. And they are not, this podcast is not associated in any way with WBCO or WQEO radio. Jared, anything else for the good of the cause to wrap up tonight?
Nope. Like you said, it feels like fall out there. So let's get those sports going here in Ohio, and hopefully we'll have a season.
Sounds great. We'll be making a decision very soon on our next guest, but that'll put a close to episode number 17 of the Overtime Podcast on this Tuesday evening. And I'll close and remind you, as I do each and every week, a spirit with a vision is a dream with a mission. Have a good night, everybody.